If you're considering making a move to the Kansas City metropolitan area and you're wanting some honest feedback about one of the best places to live on the Kansas side of our city, which is in Johnson County, then this video is for you. Overland Park, Kansas, it is one of my all-time favorite locations here in the Kansas City metropolitan area on the Kansas side. And as a matter of fact, this is where the place was that me and my husband called home when we first got married. In fact, Overland Park was rated as one of the top 10 places to live for families by livability.com, and there was an article on travelandleisure.com stating this. So I wanted to make this video because I really wanted to give you guys my perspective and my perception and some insights, because the amount of people that call me and ask me about living in Overland Park is pretty high. Overland Park is a wonderful place to live, and it's worth noting because once you guys start asking me questions, I realize I need to get this information out there. I want to make sure that I answer your questions, and so let's get into the video. So we're going to talk about the 5 things that I absolutely love about Overland Park, and then we're going to cover 3 things that I'm not super fond about. One of those things that I don't necessarily love is the lack of public transportation. The city is just so big and it's not really walkable, meaning that the city is just so big that it's really hard to get from one place to the next on public transportation or even on bicycles. But we will get more into the pros and cons about Overland Park and the details about that a little later. And if we have never met, my name is Anita Cordell and I make videos all about things in Kansas City: where to eat, where to sleep, where to live, where to play, where the food is, where the dining is, outdoor recreation, and even the weather. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and I help people just like you buy, sell, relocate, and invest right here in our amazing city, because there's no place like home. You have that personal invitation to comment. It helps a lot of people, and when people read your comments, this channel is fairly new, so there's not a ton of comments, so I'm inviting you to go ahead and put those comments down below. The viewers on these YouTube videos are gonna start reading these comments, and they're gonna see what you like, what you dislike, and I'm welcoming all of those comments, so please talk to me in those comments. And if there's another city that you want to talk about or that you want to hear more about versus Overland Park, then comment below too. It'll help me with making my next video. Also, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is going to be below in the description, and there's going to be a link down there to my calendar. So if you want to schedule a time that's most convenient for you, just click on that link and it'll go right to my calendar and we will have a conversation. Now let's get into the 5 things that I think you are absolutely going to love about Overland Park, Kansas. Before we get into this, I want to just share a personal story about Overland Park, Kansas. I know that this is not about me. I'm just trying to give you some personal insight, and believe me, I'm going to share this perspective with you, and I hope that it answers some questions. Just so you know, I've lived in several cities in Johnson County. I've also lived on the Missouri side of our city, and if you know, Kansas City again is sitting on 2 states, so it sits on Kansas and Missouri. So my first experience with living in the city was actually a city called Lenexa. Now, I grew up with my family most of my life in Leavenworth, Kansas, which is about 30 to 45 minutes north of the Kansas City metropolitan area. Was a single young mom with a daughter of about 3 at the time, and I moved from Lawrence, Kansas to the city. I just graduated with a business degree and started my corporate career, if you will, and we lived in this cute little apartment in Lenexa. We absolutely loved it. It was super close to her school, it was super close to shopping, and just everything that I needed. I had put her into a private little Christian preschool, if you will, and it was called Maranatha Academy, and that is where I kept her up until, honestly, high school. Since I loved that school so much, I just really liked the northern part of Johnson County. And then my lease was up, and that is when I moved to Overland Park. I moved into a house with some friends of mine, me and my daughter, and we absolutely had a wonderful time. Overland Park stretches out. If you look at the map, it stretches out from the northern part of Johnson County all the way to the southern part. It's our largest city. in Johnson County. It became my home and we began a life. In fact, the house we're living in at the time, once my roommates actually moved out and then my husband and I got married, he moved in, and that was where our life started. I absolutely loved our location. It was really, really close to a main interstate called I-35. We were able to just jump on the highway and go north downtown, or even go into southern part of Johnson County and into Olathe. It was so perfect for us, and we were just able to hop on the highway in no time at all. I also lived really close to what's called Old Overland Park, and Old Overland Park has just the downtown area. There's older shops and restaurants and boutiques, and there was just certain pockets of that area that we really, really liked. Tons of little businesses and everything. So in Johnson County overall, I have about 2 decades of living in Johnson County. Now, spoiler alert, we didn't end up buying in Overland Park. We actually ended up moving north to Shawnee, Kansas. It was a little bit closer to my daughter's school, but we still absolutely love Overland Park. Spend money there still to this day, go there for events. And so I really wanted to give just a little bit of perspective that I've lived in actually 3 different cities in Johnson County. First Lenexa, then Overland Park, and then Shawnee. Now, with all my perspective of Overland Park, let's get into the first thing that I think that you're going to love about Overland Park. But it's all about the incredible sports activities that are available for you. Overland Park, Kansas is a lot of things. Boring is not one of them. You have access to all kinds of sports activities, whether that's indoor or outdoor. In fact, Overland Park is home to the best youth sports venues in the whole Midwest, in my opinion. And it was recently named #1 in the top 10 soccer cities in the United States. The locals in Overland Park go crazy when it comes to soccer, I'm telling you. To be honest with you, we are a soccer family, we're a sports family, and my oldest daughter played basketball. My second daughter, she played softball, so we were all over Johnson County and all over the city basically playing competitive softball. And in fact, she plays in college to this day. She's one of the pitchers to a university. So when soccer comes and when soccer season happens, literally it is everything about the life takes second place. The people go crazy. It is literally the world's popular sport, and Overland Park shows it. I'm telling you, everything stops when soccer season is in full swing, and people drive near and far to get their kids to play soccer. Speaking of soccer, in Overland Park there is a recent revamped Shields Overland Park soccer complex. It's on 96 acres. It has 12 lighted fields with electronic scoreboards. Not only that, but the College Baseball Hall of Fame is going to establish its inaugural physical location where? In Overland Park. But that leads me to #2. Grab your bike and head to the trails. If you're a skater, go to Schweitzer Park. It offers like multiple height quarter pipe, mini bowls, stairs with handrails, a launch ramp, low rails, curbs, and more. Some other things that you can do from an outdoor perspective is you can actually take your kids to the Deanna Rose Children's Farmstead Park. There's also the Arboretum and Botanical Gardens facility. There's the museum at Prairie Fire. You could go golfing. You can go to iFly. There's 2 community centers. There's swimming pools. Not only all of those activities occur, but we also have the Midwest Balloon Fest. We have the motocross races, the annual Fall Festival. I mean, the city seems like there's always something going on. And since Overland Park is almost always family friendly, you literally are never going to hear the word "I'm bored" ever again in Overland Park, in my opinion. Now, the fact that you are taking the time to watch this video and maybe even subscribe to my channel shows me that you are serious about learning more about Overland Park and maybe even moving to Kansas City. Now, the #3 reason why I think that you're gonna love Overland Park, Kansas is the fact that Overland Park loves supporting local businesses, including farmers market. The Overland Park Farmers Market has been ranked by Cooking Light as one of the best in the whole country. Like, what? And not only has it been rated that high, but this year the farmers market is going to be expanding. Like they're moving into the parking lot and giving extra space. So it's actually going to even be bigger than what it's been. So if you haven't experienced the Overland Park Farmers Market, you are missing out. You've got to go. It opens on Saturdays in late April and it goes all the way into November. And then about mid-summertime, it opens on Wednesdays in June. And so go to their website and look at their hours. You can check out their hours on the Overland Park website. If that's not enough to convince you that Overland Park is amazing when it comes to local businesses, the downtown Overland Park hosts what's called the Local Life Third Friday. Every month, they encourage residents to shop local and continue just getting engaged with the community. So businesses stay open late, they offer treats, they offer entertainment, they offer special discounts, all kinds of stuff. So keep in mind the third Friday of every month, you'll want to go down to downtown Overland Park and check out what's going on there. Number 4 reason why I think that you're going to love Overland Park is because of the arts. Overland Park loves the arts. So just a little bit about me. I come from a musical family. Growing up, everybody in my family played 2 instruments. Mine was the clarinet and the piano. I also come from stage acting, and so then as an adult, I moved into film and commercials. So you might actually see me on your TV screen once in a while. I have a really big heart for all things the arts. And in Overland Park, in my opinion, the arts thrive. So we are talking, you can listen to live music pretty much year round, and in fact, it's actually not uncommon to walk around the streets and see musicians just jamming on the streets around and throughout Overland Park. It's so cool. And in fact, every Sunday from about June to sometime in August, Overland Park hosts what's called the Music in the Park. You can pack a picnic, you can bring your chairs, you can bring your family and just sit out and watch live local music and festivities, engage with the rest of the community for an evening of just wholesome entertainment, and it's all for free. And if your dog likes music and what have you, you're welcome to bring your dog. You can just make sure it's leashed, but you can make Sunday just literally a fun day for your whole entire family. Not only that, but there are a lot of festivals, there's events, there's bands, and as far as the creative arts and the acting goes, I love this place called the New Theater Restaurant. So New Theater Restaurant is absolutely one of my favorite places to go on a date night. I love it. I've never purchased season tickets before, but it's a great place to consider. I will say this, that you need to read the reviews, because if you are wanting to pretty much all clean shows, then you want to make sure that you read the reviews, because not all the shows are clean for little ears and people like myself who I prefer to go to clean, wholesome type shows. So I opt out on those shows, which is probably one of the reasons why I haven't purchased season tickets yet. But for the most part, the New Theater Restaurant is a favorite date for me, and you've got to try it out too. So it seems like pretty much everywhere you go, there's another piece of art. There's the Shim Sham Shimmy on Metcalf. There's the Walking Man at the Johnson County Community College. One of the most surprising places is the fact that the Recycling Center in Overland Park has art on display, and guess what? It's made of recycling materials. And as far as the artists are concerned, you can actually watch them in action in Overland Park. The Stems Pline Air Paint gathers the most talented artists around. And this event, it captures like the artist workshops. They do workshops and painting challenges, and just literally everybody is welcome to come here. Like I said before, it's not uncommon to watch live musicians playing, but it's also not uncommon to just pass by a cluster of artists and they're trying to capture the beauty of Overland Park on their canvases. It's so cool. It just feels so artistic. But I would love to give you an opportunity to tell me what you love about Overland Park. So tell me in the comments below. So let me just be real. I know some of you guys are shocked that I'm even gonna say this. Overland Park honestly is one of the wealthiest areas around. So let's just talk about that for a minute. With that being said, the average sales price of a single family home over the last 6 months in Overland Park is around $559,000. So let me just be real, I am sure that you're saying, what? Overland Park is so expensive. I know that you're saying that that's a lot of money, and you have to understand perspective as far as that is concerned, because I know that Overland Park is very expensive, one of the higher price points here in the Kansas City metropolitan area, because you can go down. Even though the average price is $559, this is an area where you can literally spend $1.5 to $5 million if you want. $559 is more than reasonable living in one of the wealthiest counties in the US. Just to shine a little bit more on this subject, I went and looked, and just today, the average for the townhomes, condominiums, and half duplexes is about $393. In my opinion, it's so unbelievable that you can also spend $5.5 million on a 13,100 square foot home that's got 6 bedrooms, 8 full baths, and 2 half baths. But you can also pick up a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for right at about $175,000. As you can see, real estate in Overland Park is really diverse, and I feel that if you want to get into Overland Park, get into like a condo or a townhome, or get one of those lower priced homes, you can get into this really amazing city. So when you're looking at neighborhoods and the community around at large and where you want to live in Overland Park, there is a perception that Overland Park isn't as relatable to other parts of the city. Now, I will say that my neighbors on the Missouri side have been a little more engaging to me than my neighbors were on the Kansas side. However, in all fairness, I have not always been as engaging in some of the neighborhoods that I've lived in Johnson County as I have been in other parts of the city, like in Jackson County. When we were living in Overland Park in those younger years, we were so focused on certain parts of our lifestyle, like our soccer, and a lot of times when you are a family and you are so engaged in living that sports life, it's really sometimes hard to engage in your neighbors when you're just so busy. The other thing that I want to note is the difference between HOAs and neighborhoods without an HOA. I will say this, that there are neighborhoods around the Overland Park area that have such a high engagement when you're living in an HOA. Our property that we lived at in Overland Park did not have an HOA, and there were no events that were around. There were no Easter egg hunts. There was no Facebook group. There was no private community per se where we lived at in Overland Park. My suggestion is, if you are wanting a community, try and find a community that's got a really active HOA. Another thing too that we were noting, in comparison with perspective, is when we did purchase a house in Shawnee, it did have an HOA, but again, we weren't super involved at the time. I had 3 kids that I was raising, and also too, we had 3 foster kids. I was taking 6 kids to all different kinds of events and church and all that. So we were kind of in our own little world per se. And so I feel like it's a little unfair for me to say, Overland Park is snotty per se, but some people do feel that. My perspective is that I have to look at where we were at when we were living in Overland Park, and those are just some things to note. If you're looking at this and you're trying to make a decision, that's just where I was at the time. Now, as far as safety is concerned in Overland Park, here's what I want to say. I hold a professional license, and safety is one of those things that I cannot say if an area is safe or not, because there's a difference in everybody's comfort level. But what I can say is that I made a video about 5 questions that a real estate agent cannot answer, and if you click on this link right here, click on that and learn more about that. But if you go to Google, you'll find that the crime rate in Overland Park is actually less than the national average. So these are all things to take into consideration. Seeing reviews is always a great way to learn stuff too. So if you go to niche.com and you pull up Overland Park, you can actually scroll down to the bottom and see some of the reviews that people have actually written about Overland Park and how they view the safety is. All right, so now that we've given you 5 different things that I think you're gonna love about Overland Park, let's talk about the 3 things that I don't necessarily think that you will love. One of the things that I alluded to before is the lack of public transportation. Overland Park is a really big city, and the public transportation isn't just about the city. It is actually a county issue. But let's just take into consideration how big Overland Park is compared to the other cities in Johnson County. So Johnson County's population is roughly around 614,000 people, and Overland Park is the biggest city in Johnson County, coming in at about 198,000 people. Olathe is the next biggest city in Johnson County, and it has about 150,000 people. Shawnee comes in at about number 3, and it's just over 72,000. And then Lenexa is the 4th largest city in Johnson County, coming in at about 48,000. So with all that being said, you'll see why I say that public transportation is an issue in Overland Park, just because it's just so hard to get around if you don't have a vehicle. The second thing that you might not love about Overland Park is what I mentioned earlier, where residents in Overland Park have this nickname per se, and they call it the Johnson County Snub. I think it's probably because it's very entrepreneurial. There's a lot of things going on. It's really hard to sometimes get engaged. You have to really be intentional about getting engaged unless you live in an HOA that's pretty active, and just it's very artistic, and there's a lot of wealth there. And so the rest of the city views on Overland Park as a snob. And the third is the weather. If you don't like all 4 seasons, then this is not just about Overland Park, it's about the Kansas City metropolitan area as a whole. And here you're gonna find all 4 seasons. You're gonna get summer, winter, spring, and fall. I love fall. I think it's so beautiful. I love all of the weather and the trees and the turning colors. It's just so pretty. But if you are not really liking winter, you're going to actually see winter, whether it's in Overland Park or across the metro area. So that's the third thing. I'm not really for sure you will love Overland Park, but that's Kansas City as a whole. I would love to hear in the comments below if there was something that you loved, if there was something that you didn't really like, if there was something that you heard or saw today that made you a little uncomfortable. Please put your comments down below. It'll help me out. Like I said, viewers get a ton of value from your perspective as a watcher. So don't hesitate to comment. Write what you liked, what you didn't like. Maybe there was something in the video that you saw that was a little uncomfortable, or maybe something that I missed. So go ahead and comment below. My contact information is going to be below as well in the description. And so be sure and reach out to me. Like I said, there's a link to my calendar below. So click on that link, schedule a time. I would love to meet with you and see what kind of ideal community you would like, where you would like to live in Overland Park. And if it's not Overland Park, then I would love to find that community throughout the metropolitan area. Now, right after this, there's gonna be 2 other videos. So click on those videos. You might find something in those videos that you're gonna love. So don't hesitate to watch them. And also to the video that I mentioned below about the 5 questions that real estate agents can't answer. That's going to be in the link below, so I'll put that in the comments. And until next time, go out and live your best Kansas City life.